the next speaker and keynote, Sebastian Wieczorek, Dr. Sebastian Wieczorek from SAP. You will speak about how generative AI is disrupting enterprise software, and you are Vice President of Artificial Intelligence Technology and Global Lead of AI Ethics. And also very interesting, a former member of the Study Commission Artificial Intelligence of the German Parliament. So the stage is yours.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me and coming here to listen to my talk. What I want to do is I want to give you a bit of a feeling how a big corporation like SAP is tackling the topic, and I also want to give you a bit of let's say glimpse into what do we look at from a technology perspective. So I'm not a salesperson. If you buy SAP, obviously that's super cool, but it's not paying my salary. So do it for your own sake, not for me. Okay, I think that just as an introduction, but I think we can be very fast here. We all know AI is shaping how industry is reinventing processes, how is reinventing manufacturing processes, internal processes like hiring processes and financial processes, and of course also the processes in terms of interacting with customers. So these are, let's say, the big tickets. And I'm showing this slide now for 6, 7, 8 years. It's still true. But of course, the technology is evolving, and what you can do in these areas, of course, has been changing over the years. Now, what you see here is that, of course, there are different phases, and we're starting. And everybody can feel that we're starting going into a new phase of generative AI that is adding onto the changes that we have been seeing with, now we say, traditional AI or narrow AI. 2 years ago was the cool thing, right? But now it's just narrow AI. We enhanced it even further. But what you see here as well is that obviously it's not going away. Statistics is not going away. Machine learning is not, or traditional machine learning, deep learning is not going away. But we're adding additional capabilities on top. That's, in my opinion, important to see. And we will, in my opinion, also still see growth in these traditional AI application areas and use cases. Now, what is so cool about generative AI? I think there have been many talks about it already, but I think what we see is we're going from tasks that we can solve that are in the area of classification to generating content. It's a bit black and white what I'm saying here, because we're also doing time series forecasting with what we call traditional AI, but in general to get a feeling for what is the next leap. You can simplify like that. We go from supervised learning to self-supervised learning. What it means is, without talking now about the technology here in detail, but what it means is that we're able to train systems on much larger data sets because we don't have to look into this data. Self-supervised means that we don't have to curate these data sets anymore, that we don't have to understand all the details of these data sets. That, of course, is posing also challenges, but that's obviously these new capabilities or this new approach has been making it possible to start this Gen AI hype, to bring out these new capabilities. We go from predefined capabilities, therefore, to emerging capabilities. So by interacting with natural language with these systems, they are not just one-trick ponies that are classifying images or that are doing a forecasting, and I have to train for each task. You can ask them, what's the sentiment of this text? What is the language of this text? What is can you translate that into English? Can you summarize it? In the narrow AI world, for each of these tasks, you would have to train a separate model. Now you have one model that you instruct on the go. That's why we're saying emerging capabilities. And in summary, we're going from single-purpose AI to general-purpose AI. So let me just flip a bit here just for making clear what we're talking about, there are foundation models that are deep neural networks that are trained on a lot of large or on data sets in a self-supervised fashion. That's what I have been talking about. Then large language models are a subgroup of that are dealing with natural language. And we have generative AI, as I said, that is mostly associated with large language models, but of course you can also generate streaming data like sensor data, or you can generate predictions, you can generate images, for example. So it's when we talk about generative AI, it's not a one-on-one relationship with foundation models and large language models. I think just to what I will be talking about mostly is large language models here, but just for you, when you hear these different terms, to understand that they are somehow synonymous, but not fully. And then there's of course ChatGPT, and that's, I would say, mostly large language model technology that is spawning that, but there's obviously also some other technologies that are baked into that to provide this service. And here on the right hand side, but I will skip that. You see a bit of what does it mean to do self-supervised learning. It's basically filling the gaps in sentences or in images and so on and so forth. Okay, so why is it creating such a hype? Why is it so important for people? It's because non-technical users via language have access to these technologies right now. It's like all of us, I'm guessing all of you have been interacting with a large language model already, and when you think about it, when you remember what you thought when you first interacted with it, I think the first interaction is, wow, it's that simple. I type a question, I get an answer. It's ridiculously easy. And it's like I remember my mother was calling me, telling me, "Have you seen that there's this ChatGPT?" I said, "Okay, I'm working in AI. What do you think? You, what you have figured out? What I haven't seen is, yeah, but it can write poems, right?" It's like, yeah, okay, can write poems. And now, what it means is that I mean, I'm not going to bash my mother now, but people in every with every knowledge, with different attitude towards technology, they all sit in front of this and they understand that this is something big, that this is providing capabilities that nothing could provide this capability before. That's clear to a lot of people, and I think even without understanding what it is good for and what is the breakthrough, what are the most valuable use cases that you can do, people, I think, when they first interacted with it, most of them, they see, okay, this is a massive thing. And I tried to explain already what foundation model, what is making foundation models different. It's multi-purpose. That means you have a multitude of tools in your hand that you don't need to retrain. You don't need data scientists to fine-tune it for you. Of course, you can do that, and there are a lot of let's say engineering and data science tasks that you can conduct in order to make it better and to adapt it better to your tasks. But in essence, it's something that is working out of the box. And it's doing a lot of things. Here are some example capabilities, but I mentioned already some. Now, what can you do with it? I'm playing, hopefully, a small video here. It should be playing. So what you see here is basically an SAP system where someone is asked to create, if I'm not mistaken, a job description. And what you can imagine is like a large language model is capable of generating text. So this should be a simple task for it. And obviously, when what you could do is you could go to ChatGPT or different other providers and ask generate a job description for me. What you see here is that, of course, if you're what makes this more efficient is that when you own the application that is then managing these job applications, you have additional information like what is the location, what is the seniority of this person, what is the that you're looking for, what is the department doing in which you want to hire into, and other information. And you can creatively create this prompt, so the input text, in order to make it easier and more seamless, and then copy over the text that is coming right into the application where you want to edit it. In this case, in Word, and then as a human you can go over it and adjust it. But when we look at it, I would say very boring, right? So in the end, okay, you ask a large language model to generate the text. It generates the text, and a year ago would have been wow. Now it's like, okay, good, thanks, next. I think from an efficiency gain, of course, what you have to see, it saves a lot of time. If your job is to create this job posting or to review these job postings, it gives a lot of efficiency. But I'm not in HR, so for me it's a bit boring, I have to admit. But I understand that there is huge value in bringing large language models into all these cases, and that's of course what not only SAP but a lot of companies are doing right now. But I also want to show you something else. And hopefully it's playing up. What you see here is you're asking a large language model, and here you see the query text. I have not been fast enough to read it, but it was asking what is the assessment for a certain candidate in the system. And now what you're looking at here, we're just printing out a monologue of a large language model that is trying to figure out what it has to do in order to how to interact with an HR system in order to produce the output of it. So it's basically a large language model doing planning for it, talking to itself, saying, okay, now I queried this interface, I got this response. Does that help me? What should I do next? Should I filter the response? And so on and so forth to come up with the right information. This Brady Johnson, for which we have queried, has the following assessment overall. And this is something that is exciting me more, because not so many people see that large language models can be used for interacting with a system and retrieving information from a system, or even for translating between systems automatically. And when you think about it, just to take this one example here, what happens on an abstract level is that on the left-hand side, what would you have to do as a human? You think, I would like to know how this Brady Johnson is doing, so I think about the task. And then I go into the system, to the graphical user interface, and I have to click a lot of buttons in order to solve this task. Of course, the information retrieval that is done by the application, so the information is provided to me, but I have to interpret the information. I have to figure out what is the right plan to execute that. And now let's look at what do we do in this agent-based interaction that is purely using a large language model as is, right? You can ask the large language model what do you have to do, and then you execute what the large language model does automatically, tell the large language model what the output was, and ask for the next step, and so on and so forth. So in the end, the user in this scenario is not doing anything. It's still defining the task, but the execution of the task, figuring out what is the strategy to execute this task, and how do I retrieve the information, whether this was successful or not, this is done automatically. And we will see more and more of these patterns. What it in general means that the way how humans are interacting with the world and with software systems and with hardware systems is going to change more and more from human executing or human describing what the actual task is, to human supervising and controlling what is happening. So I, as a human, start to become like okay, I'm a manager anyways, but I become even more like an executive, right? I don't care how you do it. I can tell my sales guy, yeah, you make sure that this guy is buying my software. You make sure that the data entry is done. You just show me the result, and I tell you whether it was good or bad, right? That's in the end what happens, and what happened in this example that I showed you. I asked, what is the assessment of Brady Johnson? I don't care how you do it, and I can. I shouldn't say that, but it's not so easy to figure that out, because you have to know where you have to click and how to figure that out. It's a lot of complex UI that you can bypass by just giving someone the task to do that, and that's what this, in my opinion, what is going to be the long-term effect of large language models. Right now, people are saying, oh, okay, it can generate text, and we will get bored, and more people will understand that this is possible, but underneath, what I'm seeing is, and what we're seeing is, that there's a huge potential in changing the way humans are interacting with machines and machines are interacting with machines. Now, I want to. This is a slide that I sneaked in. You can see that because it's not very beautiful, but I want to talk about one single thing, and that's whether we as Europeans want to be provider of these Gen AI capabilities, or whether we want to be consumers of that. And there's a distinct difference between that. So let's talk about the consumer side, so the right-hand side first. What we as consumers are doing, whether we're businesses or a single person, we have some data that we send into a cloud, a model, a whatever system, right? And we get some response back. I think it's very clear that everybody can do that. I showed you how that can be done. And for example, when we talk about regulation that is out there, there's some regulation coming up on how to consume large language models, how to consume AI in general. You have to take care of the data that is going in. You have to make sure that you have that you're GDPR compliant in terms of you have a good reason for processing that data. But you have that all under your control. And I would say, from a regulation point of view, that's everybody can do that, and every supplier or provider of this will have to figure it out for the European market, how we are regulating. On the provider side, it's a bit different. What is happening, and I explained that briefly to you, self-supervised learning means you don't look into the data anymore. People are crawling the web. People are taking whatever data they can get hold of, but they don't do that in order to figure out the person-related information from that data, so it's irrelevant. They're using it in order to do self-supervised learning to get to this cloudy thing that is coming out there. However, if you do that in Europe, you still have to be GDPR compliant, which means if now I'm going there and I'm asking, is information about me stored somewhere? These providers, they cannot tell because they never looked into this data. If you force them now to do that, it takes a lot of effort, and there is a lot of risk that they come up with the wrong information about that. And what it means is that if we want to have providers in Europe, these providers have a much larger risk to be providers than elsewhere in the world. Whereas when you train this model somewhere, no matter whether in Europe or elsewhere, the consuming side is safe for all. So we have to think as a society as well, whether we want to be providers here as well, or whether we want to be working with American suppliers, if we want to be working with Asian providers, and give up this space, because our way of thinking about data privacy is so important for us that we don't touch this. The result in terms of how safe our personal information is the same, by the way. Doesn't matter. It's just that it's not happening here, but elsewhere. Okay, but that was sneaked in. Now coming back to the to the main talk. Of course, there's I talked about what are the different areas. Now, when we look at SAP, of course, we're pushing out a lot of Gen AI capabilities over the next month. All of the things here are capabilities that either already exist or will be made available over the next 6 months. So you see that SAP is investing a lot. We also take AI ethics very serious, and I think it was mentioned I'm the global lead of AI ethics, so I'm also involved in setting this up. We have created as one of the first companies worldwide general guiding principles. We have created a governance process and a policy framework that every SAP employee has to obey to, that every partner that we're working with has to obey to, and we're very proud of this setup. If you want to know more, there's a free course that I think it's 2 or 3 hours that explains you all the details of what we're doing in order to use and produce ethics AI capabilities in an ethical way. But just to come back to the generative AI part, of course, there are some, when we look at AI ethics, there are some considerations that are noteworthy and that I also wanted to bring to you. So there are some questions when it comes to transparency and explainability that cannot be answered in the same way as it has for the narrow, traditional, or whatever you want to call AI. For example, providing clear and simple explanation for the outputs, as many people are demanding, is, I would say, impossible for foundational models. Or when you talk about addressing bias and discrimination, you see that we're very good in figuring out bias and discrimination in structured data. In unstructured data, like text, like images, we're lacking the capabilities right now. That's something that we need to be aware of and, of course, manage the risk of that. And in human agency and oversight, there are also challenges. So in all the categories in which we think about AI ethics, we have these challenges. For example, there is when, for example, if you want to take a decision about, I'm doing oversight, I want to take a decision, why did you recommend me this action? Or why did you do that? You can ask a foundation model why it does it. And then it will produce a text that probably gives a good explanation. But of course, it's not the explanation that is true. There's an explanation that is generated and that makes sense for you. But the reason why something happened is because certain neurons were trained in a way, right? So whether it's acceptable for you to take it like that or not, that's an interesting, I would say, philosophical question as well. If we agree to the explanation, maybe that's enough. So to wrap up, I think SAP, what we're doing is we're taking what generative AI is offering us and translating that into business value. I showed you how many use cases we're creating. What we want to do is we want to make that relevant. So we want to do that where it creates value, and we want to do that in a responsible way. That's why we're creating these processes. And with that, thanks for listening.